What lessons could we possibly learn from Jesus walking on water and scaring the disciples? Today on the Midweek Move, we're going to talk about that. Hello and welcome to the Midweek Move podcast extension of the Healing Place, the podcast where we examine the scriptures line by line, verse by verse, and ask ourselves, what is happening here? And today, ladies and gentlemen, I can't say words today.
Yeah.
Joining me at the table, once again, I'm excited about this actually, is Carlos Renfro. How's it going, bud?
I'm back.
You're back.
I'm back. like I never left.
So, different side of the room. We changed clothes.
Yeah, we did. We changed clothes.
We've showered.
For those of you paying attention.
So, oh my goodness, we're excited about. I'm excited to continue on the Book of Mark. Over the last couple of weeks, we took a little break and we were answering questions. Some of y'all's questions you guys have been asking in the last few months, and even some in the last few years are questions that people ask. Yeah. And it was a really great conversation. I want to encourage you guys to make sure you guys go check that out. We actually have a whole playlist on the YouTube channel called Question and Answer, where it has the long form version and then the breakdown of each one of those.
Got bite-sized pieces for you.
Yep. And so make sure you guys check that out, share them. Our genuine hope is for this to be a study tool for you. Like this whole podcast, it's meant to be a study tool. It's not just, we're not YouTube personalities here. We're not trying to be YouTube famous. We want to create a tool for you guys to study the scriptures and to go deeper. And sometimes that involves questions.
Yes,
and if you guys have questions about what we talk about today or other things, please leave comments here on the channel or message us on the Facebook page or email us, mediahub@thpeachreport.com. Happy to get back with you and walk you through some stuff. So
absolutely. That
being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be picking back up in the book of Mark chapter 6. And man, it's been a while. I'm excited to get back into this.
Yeah. Mark is good. Mark is kind of. It feels almost like the fast forward version of the gospel because so much happens at one time. It's just one event after the other. So you can break Mark down into small pieces and spend quite a bit of time on it.
Yeah. Mark is like the gospel that's on 2.5 speed.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Goes through, and if you're not paying attention, you miss some time jumps and stuff like that.
Yeah, it feels like everything's immediately, but there's time between these verses.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, well, let's rock and roll with this. Carlos, could you read for us verse 45?
Verse 45. Immediately he made his disciples get into the boat and go before him to the other side, to Bethsaida, while he dismissed the crowd.
Okay, so we pick up right after Jesus fed the 5,000 individuals, all right, with loaves and fishes. Mark doesn't record the people's response necessarily, but we see in John's gospel that the crowd began to stir and intended to take Jesus away to make him king. And I say that, I'm pointing this out, this is what we call the synoptic gospels.
Yeah.
Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, they line up together. I think I said this on a previous podcast. One of my favorite study tools I've ever bought in my life is the harmony of the gospel, where it lines things up. And in studying, preparing for this, I had it open, and that's where I was like, right, that's John's gospel records. This is a crowd they're getting excited because they hear Jesus teaching, and they're like, man, this is the King, this is the Messiah, this is what we're looking for. And so they're about to just forcefully take him. They're like, this is our King.
Yeah.
And Jesus is like, wait a minute.
No, that's not what we're doing here.
So Jesus is, he dismisses the crowd, dismissing the crowd and everything like that. He's sending his disciples away to make that easier.
Right, yeah.
So my question for you, Carlos, today, as a leader, because you are a leader, you're one of the elders here at the church, you take part in our preaching team, our teaching team, other things. It's your job to be vigilant to help divert potential issues, potential problems. For some, this could develop into a syndrome of always looking for the other shoe to drop. I mean, when you're always in the mode of looking for what could happen, some people, they just think it's going to happen all the time. They're just always almost this pessimistic idea of church and life. How do we maintain being present and being vigilant without developing that negative side of things?
Well, I think the most important thing you're talking about in a leadership setting and being vigilant, being able to handle stuff as it happens and being able to handle problems that happen, being present, I think is being able to see the big picture. You know why you're there, know what the goal is, know what the big picture is, know what the directive, what are we driving toward? Jesus was always he was always saying, man, I'm here to do what I see the Father doing. And so he had a picture. He knew what he was supposed to be doing. And when you have a picture of what the overall goal is, you can head off problems, but you don't lose your focus on what the other shoe drop mentality is the mentality that you have when you're not sure what's going on. You're not sure what's going to happen.
Yeah.
If you take time, especially prayerfully and preparation before the Lord, just kind of know what the big picture is when you're dealing with leadership. If you're dealing with a team, you're dealing with a group of people, know what the focus is. That way, you're not losing track of anything if you have to deal with an issue, if you have to deal with a problem, if you have to correct something, if you have to teach through something, take opportunity. And those can be good things. It can be good to find an opportunity to correct something because you use those as teaching moments.
Right.
But having a firm grasp on what the overall picture is, on what the target, what the focus, what the directive is, allows you to do that without pulling yourself out in the moment and losing focus.
Right.
That's what helps me.
I like it. So here's a question for you, because we operate in a very much a team environment here,
Yes.
and most organizations do and should. I really struggle with the idea of the Lone Ranger, lone wolf Christianity mindset. We should be operating as a team in the house as a whole. How do you work to maintain to make sure that everyone's on the same page, the overall vision? Because like I said, like if we keep that in mind, then we're able to be present, do stuff. How do you work to make sure that's consistent throughout a team?
Well, there's no substitute for communication, for one-on-one talking with people and understanding where people are. I feel that the church model has lost a little bit of its focus on discipleship.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're doing life with people, if you're one-on-one with people and you're working with people, you're instructing people, you're talking with people, you do have the ability to understand your team, to understand the people. Jesus understood the men that he was working with, the disciples. So he was able to give them instruction on what they're able to do.
Right.
And so they're able to go on the boat, go ahead of them. He's like, I got this portion right here. And it's just like we talk about, 1 Corinthians 12, we talk about the individual members of the body, everybody understanding what their part is. And a good leader is able to not just see the big picture, what's important, but able to draw down and narrow focus when it comes down to the individual. And that just comes with being, not out in front, but being side by side with people.
Yeah.
Being there with people and doing life with people and understanding who the people are on your team and who the people you are that you're working with, knowing what they're capable of, knowing what they're good at, limiting their exposure to their weaknesses, and just kind of making sure that you're communicating, hey, here's your duty, here's your responsibility. It's not a job, it's a responsibility, it's something that we're partnering together to do with one another.
Right.
And as a leader, there's no substitute for that communication.
Right. Absolutely. Good stuff. All right, let's continue on. Carlos, if you could read us 46.
Verse 46, and after he had taken leave of them, he went up to the mountain to pray.
All right. So here we see Jesus heading up to the mountain or the hill, depending on what translation you're reading, to pray after he sends his disciples off. We know from previous discussion that Jesus was originally trying to get that place after he had found out that his best friend, his cousin had died. That was his original plan, was to get away to be with the Father and to pray. But now we see that this getting away to pray he's carrying even more of a burden with him.
Right.
So my question for you, Carlos, is there's a lot taking place in Jesus' life right now. I mean a lot. And again, the correct response is to go off and pray. But as average humans, as people, it's sometimes hard to ensure that we do that. What do you do to ensure that your focus is correctly aligned, that you are going, I'm going to pray, I'm going to make sure this happens? How do you make that take place in your life?
It's an issue and a matter of priorities.
Yeah.
Understanding, like I said, being kind of big picture, knowing what the goal is, knowing where you're supposed to land in a particular thing. I understand that my ability to get to where I'm going are dependent upon certain things.
Right.
There are certain things that have to first. There are first things that have to be in line of order. Right. I'm not any good to the people that I'm leading. I'm not any good to the task that is at hand if I'm not connected to God in my relationship with Him.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of priority. You know, if I'm doing so much doing, but I'm not. We always talk about be no be. I'm not being first.
Mm-hmm.
That's why be is first. If I'm not being in
Right.
relationship with God, and I'm not in my identity with Him as a son, and now I've jumped the knowing, and now I'm all the way into the doing. The
Mhm.
doing isn't going to be right.
Yeah.
You know, Jesus could take on more tasks. He could take on more. He could go and talk to more people and heal more sick. But he's not in line with the Father through his relationship with the Father. Those other things are going to suffer.
Right.
So it's a matter of priority, and we find ourselves upside down when we lose the priority.
Word.
The priority is the relationship with God. It's a relationship with the Father. And he understood that.
Right.
You know, if that means that disciples are going to have to handle this boat ride on their own for the moment, you know, I need to make sure that I prioritize time with the Father.
Yeah. Good stuff. Just because he's in the room, we have a young man with us. He's kind of shadowing, learning how to do all the video editing stuff and recording. But he had an opportunity to speak in our kids' church a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about the preparation side of things and putting into practice. And he was using basketball analogies because he's really big into basketball. And but he understood, one of the things he pointed out was great, that his preparation in basketball ensured it for his team.
Yeah.
Being able to do that. And that's like we were saying, have the priorities. What's the priority? And we said this, when did we say this? I think I said this in youth a couple of weeks ago, that our purpose defines our preparation. But if we don't prepare, we miss the purpose.
Yeah, you said that with the bag things. I was up there.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And so that is, again, our purpose, our priority, we have to prepare for it.
You have to.
And if it's important to us, genuine important to us, we're going to make the time for it.
Right. Yeah, and that's going to show your motive.
Mhm.
Why you do things are going to show in your preparation.
Exactly.
You know, if you have shoddy preparation and you have shallow, then you can rest assured that your motives aren't necessarily in the right place. Your motives will show through in the things that you do when nobody's looking.
Yeah.
So that's an opportunity to examine your heart.
Yeah, definitely. Good stuff. All right, let's continue on verse 47 and 48, Carlos.
47 and 48. And when the evening came, the boat was out to sea, and he was alone on the land. So Jesus alone on the land. And he saw that they were making headway painfully, for the wind was against them. And about the fourth watch of the night, he came to them walking on the sea. He meant to pass by them.
All right. So the time frame here is somewhere between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. That whole fourth watch, that's a old Roman way of telling time and stuff like that. So somewhere between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. So this is really late or really early, depending on how you're looking at it.
Depending on what your job is. Maybe as fishermen, that would have been late.
Exactly. Of course, we got to keep in mind, this is also the back end of Jesus having fed the 5,000, dismissing everybody, said he went away and prayed. We don't necessarily know if he took a nap while he was on the mountain,
Right.
but we know the disciples were halfway out there,
Right.
and it says that they were struggling out there. Because my notes, Jesus sees that they are struggling to make it across the water because the wind was blowing in the opposite direction. This is where Jesus performs a miracle that we would call a theophany.
Yeah.
That is a revelation of the divine nature of God. That's your big theology word for today, theophany. Jesus walks out on the water towards the disciples. There are some who question about why it says that he intended to walk past them. Some
Right.
suggest that the vocabulary probably leans more towards he intended to simply catch up to him.
Mm-hmm.
But in either case, it clearly shows that Jesus, unlike his disciples, has no issues traversing the waters.
Right. None whatsoever. And not just that, you go to the beginning, there in verse 47, it said he came to the and when it came to the evening, he was the boat was out to sea. That verse 48, that he was looking, he was on the land.
Yeah.
And Jesus was on the land, and he looked and saw that they were out there struggling.
Right.
That's the first end of the miracle, is that he was back on the land. They were halfway out in the sea, and he could
Right.
see that they were in trouble from
Right.
where he was at. That's supernatural in and of itself.
Exactly. And I mean, and again, he books it. Like he's just walking across and is almost like, hey guys, how's it going?
Right.
Like this is a miraculous thing.
It's absolutely miraculous.
And we've talked about before, several weeks ago, about how we see Jesus throughout the book Mark perform different miraculous things that show his divine authority over aspects of life, his divine authority over sickness, over other things, but also over nature itself.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that we say it, but the gravitas of it, that this the divine creator in human form. And as much as Jesus is, he lives like a man, he's still divine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like he just walked out on the water towards his disciples. Yet this is the same one who goes, I'm going to go to the cross for you.
Yes.
He could have just said, I'm done. At any point in time, he could have just gotten off the cross and like,
Be completely justified.
yeah,
Being the creator of everything and all.
yeah. Yet he didn't. He stayed up there, even though he has the power just to not.
Right. And that just speaks to the powerful love of God, that he has the ability to abandon such a situation.
Right.
He has the right and the justification to abandon such situation.
Mm-hmm.
But because of his immense love for the people that he's coming to earth to save, he doesn't do it. He makes a conscious choice to not take that benefit up, and to do it for the good of the people that are around him, and knowing that the people that are around him, not all are going to accept it.
Exactly. I mean, it's just a powerful thing that when I was studying this out, it caught me off guard when I was reading it. Carlos, will you do me a favor? Read 49 and 50 for us, man.
49 and 50, verse 49. But when they saw him walking on the sea, thought it was a ghost and cried out, for all saw him were terrified. I understand. But immediately he spoke to them and said, take heart, it is I, do not be afraid.
All right. So the disciples' responses was not unreasonable.
No. I know we kind of know how the story ends, but I've been in a boat before.
Right.
And I would freak out if I looked out there and saw some dude walking across the water. That would be weird.
Exactly. I mean, they've not seen ghosts, never seen somebody walk on water before. They look out. They have no frame of reference for the idea that it could be Jesus' ghost. Last they saw, he was on land doing fine.
Right.
So they're going, there's a ghost out here.
Right. There's a dude. We're over here struggling trying to keep this boat, upright, and there's some cat walking across the water.
Right.
What is happening?
I mean, the fear, the shock, that's totally reasonable.
That's very reasonable.
So now, before we go into the next verse, Matthew records more of this story. Again, this is the whole aspect of the synoptics, the harmony of the Gospels. Matthew records a little bit more that's taking place here. And he shows that Peter wasn't sure if it really was Jesus or not.
Yeah.
Peter being Peter, he looks out and Jesus goes, don't worry, it's me, it's all cool. And Peter's like, I don't trust it.
Right.
And then he said something really interesting. He goes, Lord, if it is you, command me to come out onto the water.
Peter's the guy that's thinking what we're all thinking, but he's the one that says it out loud.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, are we sure that's Jesus? I don't know.
Right.
And so he's like, prove it. Show me. And so Jesus invites Peter on the water. Now, he does well. He gets out there and he's standing on the water until he gets distracted by a big wave and he starts to float down. And Jesus asks, why did you doubt as he's pulling him up? Now, there's some interesting talking points around this question of why did you doubt? Someone pointed out that the doubt Jesus that pointed out that the doubt Jesus questions could be applied both to the moment of him looking away in the fear of the wave, and to the initial question, Lord, if it is you.
Right.
Which I found that to be an interesting thought process when I was studying it. I don't think I've ever thought about, was Jesus questioning the original?
Right. Like, we just fed 5,000 folks. Who else would be out here walking on the water?
Exactly.
Do you remember what? And you would see it in other parts of the gospel.
Yeah.
And even, over and over, they would get from seeing Jesus do something miraculous and then move to another instance, and there's another need, and they're like, well, I don't know what to do. And Jesus like where's your faith, man? Didn't we just go through X, Y, and Z?
Like just a little bit of time beforehand, Jesus had literally just like stopped the water from capsizing the boat.
Right.
They're in the boat freaking out. They're like, Jesus, we're going to die. And he's like, shh.
Like just a day ago, you didn't have enough food for each other, and we fed 5,000 folks.
Right.
We were just. Did you guys just not read a few verses ahead?
So again, it's an interesting aspect. Again, normally when it's preached, everyone's preached is about him doubting because of the wave, but it's kind of a bigger thing. There's a lot taking place.
There's a lot,
but there's also a grace taking place. Whatever the case, though, it's clear that there were a lot of emotions taking place, and it would be very easy for someone to doubt.
Yes.
I mean, just the situation, it'd be easy for them to doubt if it was Jesus or not out there on the water. when you find yourself in a place of uncertainty, Carlos, how do you ground yourself to be sure that Jesus is truly present in the moment? How do you ground yourself when you're just like, really like, I don't know what's happening anymore?
Well, as a believer now, one, I have the benefit of the word.
Word.
I have the benefit of the scriptures and what Jesus has already established. I have the ability to go back. Whether you got your paper Bible, if you got one of these guys, I have the ability to go back to the word. I have the ability to settle my heart on His promises.
Yeah.
And also, I have a testimony. I have the ability to have a frame of reference for the things that God has already proven to me through relationship with Him and through time and through trial and through testing and through just God always being faithful. You may not be able to see where you are now, but you definitely have the ability to see where you've been.
Right.
And so just having that framework around you through relationship and through the word, you have the ability to have some certainty that God's done it before, He'll do it again.
Right. That whole aspect of having the word, man, it is a fundamental aspect of us as Christians. We were talking in the student ministry, and I'm challenging the students with we're memorizing a single verse a week in youth ministry right now, and the current verse we're doing, it's Psalm 119, 105, and it says that your word is a lamp unto my feet, a light unto my path.
Yeah.
And when I was talking with the students, is like the gravitas of this single verse is that it exposes things, but also guides us.
Yes.
And so when we're living in fear, going to the word, it exposes what fear is,
right,
but also guides us through it.
Yes.
Not that it removes the situation, but guides us through the moment. That's why it's so important for us to hold on to the scriptures as a whole.
Certainly.
So
certainly, because you can go to that script and you can find your situation or what your heart should be in a situation. You can find it there. It's in there.
It's in there. Now, of course, it takes us reading it, being regular.
Yes,
I think
yes,
so many
it
people
does.
that they want the quick select, like, oh, what do I do for this? Boop, and they go to something.
Right. Yeah.
It takes some investment.
We want God GPT, and that's not that's not how this works.
That's what the G stands for.
Right.
I hadn't thought about that. That's funny. But you're right. I mean, we do. It's this instantaneous, like, oh, I just want the answer to this. And sometimes there's the cases where you go, all right, scripture for this. And sometimes there's good stuff. But then even the greater context of scripture, which again is what this show's all about, it enhances so much more.
Yeah.
It helps us understand. So the verse we're talking about in student ministry, Psalm 119, it's a great verse. But man, when you pan back and you read beyond that verse,
Yeah.
just a little section, because that Psalm 119, it's a long
I'm about to say there's
psalm,
plenty to read on Psalm 119.
but it's broken up into sections. That one particular section, he's talking about how no matter what's taking place, the righteousness of God that's displayed through the Word is something he's going to cling to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, you can do, God GPT. I'm going to copyright that later for you.
Yeah.
You could do that,
Find out
and
on a
that single
t-shirt.
verse would be great.
Right.
But man, if we're invested,
Yeah.
for reading it, dude, it's so much more comforting.
Yes.
I would so much rather have a full-fledged yacht than a single lifesaver boat.
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Resources.
It's so much better.
Yeah.
So yeah, cool beans. All right, let's wrap it up, Carlos. Let's do 50 and
51.
51 through 52.
51, 52, 51. And he got into the boat with them, and the wind ceased, and they were utterly astounded, for they did not understand about the loaves, but their hearts were hardened. Didn't we just say that? Didn't we just say this?
I think we did. So after the moment of Peter sinking into the water, Jesus enters the boat with his disciples, and immediately the weather calms down. Mark records that everyone is astounded. His commentary is interesting to me, though, because, again, it says that they were all astounded. And why this is fascinating to me is because Mark wasn't there.
Right.
Peter was.
Peter was, yeah.
Mark's mentor is sitting there telling him, "Go, Mark, there was this weird day, man. We're in a boat. It was bad, and the water was just flooding the boat. We're freaking out. All of a sudden, I look out on the water, and there's a ghost. I'm talking full on Casper experiences. I'm freaking out.
We're all losing it, bro.
We're losing it, man. We're yelling and screaming, and then all of a sudden the guy says, "I'm Jesus," and I wasn't sure, Mark. I just wasn't sure. And we don't know why he doesn't record it in Mark, but he says at some point, he goes, "Mark, I was scared." and I was astounded at what Jesus did. He's like sitting there going, well, obviously it was Jesus, so it was fine.
Right.
But he goes, I was astounded. I was in awe, and I did not understand the loaves.
Yeah.
I didn't understand everything Jesus had just done.
Right.
Mark's ability to say that this was to take place means that his mentor was willing to say humbly, I just didn't get it at the time, which speaks volumes about what I think biblical leadership should look like.
Absolutely.
About the whole being humble enough to go, I don't know.
I didn't know. There's some words that will free you, leaders.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oof. It will free leaders.
Free
parents.
followers.
It'll free some people be willing to go, I don't know, or I didn't understand, and admit your shortcomings.
But then you're able to point stuff back to God.
Yeah.
You're able to point stuff back to His Word, and you can get people attention off of you and onto the Lord.
Absolutely. So my question for you, though, knowing that the disciples were seemingly clueless, we see that Jesus had abundant of grace for them. How do Jesus' actions with his disciples translate to how we should treat our fellow believers today?
Well, we're called to be Christ-like, and we have to understand is that the outcome is what we're after, right? You know, Jesus could blast them and fire them and say, "I'm going to go get 12 more," but no, he understood. You know, the outcome is what we're looking for, and this is a moment, this is opportunity of teaching. You guys saw the miracle with the 5,000, with the loaves and with the fishes, and you didn't understand that the loaves and the fishes, it wasn't about a meal.
Right.
It was about God taking care of need. It was about God guarding those that follow Him. Those people made a sacrifice to come out there and to follow Jesus, and Jesus understood that, and He took care of them. Now understanding when we get into this boat, I'm going to take care of you.
Word.
And so he understood, all right, they didn't get it this time. But, you know, as a leader, my goal is to make sure that they get it.
Yeah.
My goal is to make sure that they get to understanding. And that takes time with people. That takes effort. That takes patience. One of the greatest qualities of the Lord is His long suffering. And then He reflects that also in the fruit of His Spirit in us.
Right.
That is part of the characteristic of the fruit of the Spirit is long suffering.
Yeah.
We have to understand the goal is the outcome. The goal is that they will get it. And sometimes that just takes patience.
Right. Absolutely. I think it's a big word for you guys today is have patience with people, which I know is hard. I know it's really hard, but how do I put this? If we don't have patience for people, we really can't walk in the way that Christ wants us to do, and the church won't grow appropriately.
That's real.
When we don't have patience for people, they will begin to perform for you rather than for the Lord.
Yeah.
And we'll put people in places that they don't need to be in because they're not ready. The disciples were not ready to take on the task of being the apostles and the leaders of the early church. And that's one of the reasons why at the beginning of this section we read off, Jesus sent them away. It wasn't just that the people were going to put Jesus in power early. It's that he knew his people weren't ready for the responsibility they had to walk into.
It wasn't that time.
And so as a leader, he had to protect all that, include his own people. The whole purpose they were there to begin with is they were on their way to find rest.
Yep.
And I think it's something, again, because of the way that Mark reads out, we miss it. Jesus was originally going to find rest, and he was sending his disciples to find rest.
Yep.
And that's probably why he sent them off. He's like, they're not ready for this whole leadership aspect at all. Yeah. And he's showing them grace, and we've got to show people grace.
Right. Now there's lessons to be learned in the middle of that.
Exactly. All right, guys, so we want to hear from you. How has this encouraged you? How has it challenged you? How can we pray with you? Reach out to us. MediaHub@thpshreveport.com is our email. Check out the Facebook page. And do us a favor, leave some comments here on the YouTube channel. It helps the algorithm put it out there. And share this out with anybody you want to. That being said, until next time, have a great week.